Are you out of your mind, Maya? My baby cannot drink your filthy milk. For a moment, everything paused. The lullaby music playing gently in the background became haunting. The scent of baby powder mixed with lavender in the air now seemed almost mocking. Maya, her soft brown eyes wide with alarm, instinctively adjusted the blanket around her body and rose slightly from the rocking chair. Her voice was calm but trembled beneath the surface. "Miss Stone, please. I can explain. You will do no such thing," Alexandra snapped. Her voice wasn't raised, it was worse than that. It was cold, controlled, like ice cracking under pressure. "Put my child down." Maya obeyed immediately, handling Noah with practiced tenderness, easing him back into the crib. The baby gurgled contentedly, oblivious to the storm brewing above him. But Alexandra wasn't done. She stormed toward Maya, grabbing her roughly by the forearm and dragging her out of the nursery. "You think you can walk into my home and put your body on my son like you belong here?" she hissed. They stopped at the top of the staircase. Maya tried to explain again, her voice breaking. "Miss Stone, he hadn't eaten in hours. The formula delivery didn't come. He was crying, screaming. I didn't know what else to do." Alexandra slapped hair. The sound rang out, louder than anything else in the quiet house. Maya gasped, stunned into silence. Alexandra's voice followed, venomous. "Don't you dare play the victim," she spat. "How dare you assume your used-up body is acceptable for my child? Look at you, your skin. You're everything. You think a child like mine needs milk from someone like you?" Tears welled up in Maya's eyes, but she didn't cry. She looked down, shamed not by her action but by the way Alexandra looked at her, as though she was dirty, beneath human. "I wasn't trying to offend." "Oh, you offended all right, you disgust me." Without another word, Alexandra ordered security to pack Maya's belongings and escort her off the property. "I never want to see her face again," she barked, slamming the nursery door shut behind her. "If you feel for this character, like this video, and comment your location, you might find others nearby watching too." That night the house was too quiet. Alexandra had always prided herself on control. Her days were scheduled to the minute meetings, reports, nutritionists, sleep consultants. Her calendar was full of people who followed orders, but tonight, control was slipping through her fingers. Noah had cried twice since Maya left. Alexandra had warmed the emergency formula herself, held him like the pediatrician taught. But he refused the bottle, arching away, wailing with the kind of despair that pierced straight through the walls. He hadn't cried like that since Maya held him. Her hand hovered over the monitor. She watched Noah, his tiny chest rising and falling. Fists curled against his cheeks, and like a haunting echo, she remembered that smile, soft, milk-drunk, peaceful on his face when Maya held him. She shook the thought away. That wasn't peace. That was a trick. A fluke. She had every right to be angry. Still, her fingers trembled as she turned off the monitor and climbed the stairs. The next morning, curiosity got the better of her. She asked her assistant to run a background check on Maya Williams, not out of paranoia, she told herself, but due diligence. Within hours, the report arrived. Maya Denise Williams, age 29, former NICU nurse at Westlake General Hospital, terminated due to budget cuts, single, guardian of 2 nieces, no criminal record. There was a scanned photo Maya in hospital scrubs, gently cradling a tiny premature infant. Beneath it, Nurse Williams saved our baby's life. Family testimonial. Alexandra stared, her stomach twisted, the slap, the words she had hurled like knives. Her baby had been safe, truly safe, with a woman who once saved newborns for a living. She could hardly breathe. A full day passed, then 2. Noah's restlessness only grew. Every night she rocked him, sang lullabies she barely remembered. But he never smiled, never cooed. Only cried, restless, like someone was missing. Alexandra couldn't take it anymore. That Friday evening, against every impulse of pride and control, she typed an address into her GPS, an apartment listed on Maya's emergency file. The drive was short, but every second made her skin crawl. When she pulled into the parking lot, A wave of discomfort hit her. The complex was run down. Balconies rusting, paint chipping, a pair of kids playing with broken toys in the dirt. She hesitated. Then she stepped out of her luxury SUV and walked to the unit. Her heels clicked on the uneven cement. She knocked. No answer. Knocked again. The door creaked open slowly. Maya stood in the doorway, her face blank, bruised slightly where Alexandra had struck her. She wore a faded sweatshirt. One of her nieces peeked out from behind a curtain. "Maya," Alexandra began, voice tight. "May I come in?" Maya looked at her for a long moment, just long enough for Alexandra to feel every ounce of shame settle into her bones. Then, Maya stepped aside. The apartment was clean but bare. Sparse furniture. Faint smell of canned beans and baby lotion. Alexandra sat on the couch, careful not to wrinkle her blouse. "I came to apologize," she said, struggling to meet Maya's eyes. "For what I said. For what I did. I was wrong and cruel, and I'm sorry." Maya remained silent. Alexandra pushed forward. "I reviewed your background. I know who you are. What you've done. I was too blinded by my own expectations. But Noah hasn't been the same since you left. I haven't been the same." Still, Maya said nothing. But her expression softened just slightly. Alexandra reached into her handbag and pulled out an envelope. "I want to offer you a new position, not as a maid, as head infant care specialist, with a salary 5 times what you earned before. I want you to come back." There was a long pause. Then Maya asked, voice low, "Do you see me now?" Alexandra nodded. "I do." Outside, a siren wailed in the distance. Inside, the silence between two women divided by class, race, pride, was slowly beginning to shift. And upstairs, far from this tiny apartment, Noah slept uneasily, waiting for someone he could not name. The sun had barely risen when Alexandra Stone's name began trending online. She hadn't even brushed her teeth. The headlines were brutal. Tech billionaire fires black nanny. For breastfeeding child public outrage erupts. Alexandra Stone accused of racist tirade after incident with black employee. Number. Justice for Maya trends, as former NICU nurse humiliated by employer. Her assistant's voice, thin and breathless, came through the intercom. "Ma'am, we have a situation." Alexandra didn't respond. She was sitting in Noah's nursery, watching him sleep. He'd finally settled down after Maya's brief visit the night before. Alexandra had driven her back herself, dropped her off, waited in the car while Maya slipped inside just to say goodnight. Noah had smiled for the first time in days. But now the world was on fire. Alexandra picked up her phone. Dozens of emails. A voicemail from her lawyer. 3 from the board of her company. And her publicist. God. Her publicist. She turned on the television. A morning talk show had already brought on a guest panel. "I mean, come on," one commentator said. She slapped a black woman. In 2025. In Beverly Hills. "You can't script this kind of tone, deaf privilege. Especially when that woman was a former nurse caring for her child," another added. "This isn't just racism, it's maternal violence. It's classism." Alexandra turned the screen off. She stood, crossed the room, and stared at herself in the nursery mirror. Her eyes were bloodshot. The makeup from yesterday still clung to her lashes. She looked old, not in years, but in weight. Shame aged fast. Noah stirred, soft coos bubbling from his lips. She turned, gently lifted him, and held him close. "I'll fix this," she whispered, more to herself than to him. "I have to." By noon, Alexandra's assistant had secured a private PR advisor and locked down her next public appearance. A charity gala her company had sponsored long before the scandal broke. It was a chance to be seen, to control the narrative, to show a more human side. But Alexandra wasn't thinking about press optics. She was thinking about Maya. That afternoon, she returned to Maya's apartment. No bodyguard, no driver. Just Alexandra, again in her pressed blouse and slacks, clutching a folder. The door opened after the 3rd knock. Maya stood there. This time with her nieces visible behind her, watching cautiously. "I came to ask again," Alexandra said. not waiting to be invited. And to tell you something important, Maya let her in. Barely. I owe you more than an apology, Alexandra said, sitting across from her at the worn kitchen table. I owe you my name, my influence, my voice. Maya folded her arms. And what does that look like exactly? Alexandra opened the folder. Inside were printed documents, an official offer, not just for a job, for leadership. I want to start a foundation, Alexandra said, one that provides proper training and support for women of color in neonatal and home care. With scholarships, legal protections, healthcare coverage. And I want you to run it. Maya blinked. I'm offering you real power, Maya. Real pay, not charity change. Why? Maya's voice was sharp. Guilt? Saving your reputation? No, Alexandra said, because I saw my son happier in your arms than he's ever been. And I realized this world would rather punish you for feeding a child than praise you for saving one. That's not justice. The silence stretched between them. Then Maya leaned back, her voice cooler. You think one foundation makes up for what you said? Alexandra didn't flinch. Number it doesn't, but it's a start. Outside, a siren passed. The city moved on, unaware that inside this small kitchen, two women were rearranging the lines between power and humility. Finally, Maya nodded. I'll consider it. By evening, Alexandra was back home. Her assistant met her with a worried look. You need to see this, she said, holding out a tablet. It was a video. Someone had leaked footage from Alexandra's own security cameras of the confrontation. Not just the nursery. The hallway. The slap. The words. You think a child like mine needs milk from someone like you? Alexandra felt her stomach turn. She remembered saying it, but seeing it, it was different. Final. Ugly. We need a statement. Immediately, her assistant said. Alexandra nodded. No PR spin. No excuses. I want the truth. She sat down and wrote it herself, not with polished language, not with legal review, just honesty. There are moments that change you whether you want them to or not. I made a decision out of fear, ignorance, and control. And I hurt someone who only ever showed my child love. That woman, Maya Williams, is not just an employee. She is a caregiver, a nurse, a mother to her nieces, a woman of integrity. I failed her. And in doing so, I failed my son. There is no excuse, but there can be accountability and change. Maya has my respect, my apology, and my support for as long as she'll accept it. I will not be issuing further statements. I will be listening. She hit send. Hours later, the internet split into chaos and contemplation. Some mocked the gesture. Others rallied behind it. But one thing was clear: Alexandra Stone, once untouchable, was now human. And humanity, messy as it was, had finally found its way into her mansion. Upstairs, Noah slept with the faintest smile on his face. And down the hall, Alexandra stood at the window, watching the night settle over Beverly Hills. The city that had both built her and, now, begun to remake her. The letter Alexandra wrote reverberated far beyond what she expected. Within 24 hours, it had been reposted by news outlets, quoted by activists, and dissected by every influencer with a ring light and an opinion. Some called it redemption, others called it damage control. But one thing was certain: everyone was watching. Alexandra didn't leave the house the next day. Not because she was hiding, but because she needed stillness. For the first time in her life, she didn't want to control the narrative. She just wanted to understand it. She spent most of the morning sitting on the nursery floor with Noah, watching him babble and crawl clumsily toward his stuffed giraffe. He smiled now. He laughed sometimes, but there was still something missing behind his wide eyes, a gentleness he'd only shown when Maya was near. A soft knock pulled her from her thoughts. It was her assistant again, standing awkwardly in the doorway. There's someone here to see you. She says you invited her. Alexandra stood, brushing off her jeans. Maya? No, her assistant said. A woman named Lorraine Davis. Says she used to work with Maya, NICU department, Westlake General. Lorraine was tall, regal, with gray-streaked braids and a voice like velvet stretched over steel. She wore her nurse's ID clipped to her blazer, as if daring anyone to question her credentials. "I heard about everything," Lorraine said as Alexandra led her into the sitting room. "I've known Maya for 10 years, trained her myself, figured it was time someone told you the parts of her story that weren't in that background check." Alexandra nodded slowly. "Please. I want to know." Lorraine sat across from her and exhaled deeply. Maya came to Westlake fresh out of nursing school. Young, hungry, bright. But she didn't just have skill, she had something rare. She could calm a preemie with one touch. Parents used to beg for her by name. Alexandra listened silently, her hands folded in her lap. "But then the cuts came," Lorraine continued. "They let go of the junior nurses first. They always do." Maya was let go without warning. No severance. No support. She never complained. Just said she'd find another way to take care of her family. "No." She mentioned her nieces. Alexandra said softly. Lorraine's gaze darkened. "Their mother, Maya's sister, was killed in a car accident 3 years ago. Drunk driver. Maya took in the girls the same day. No questions asked. She left nursing not because she wasn't good enough, but because no one would hire a single black woman with 2 kids and a resume that scared them." Alexandra felt her throat tighten. "She's one of the best caretakers I've ever known," Lorraine said firmly, "and she's been surviving on scraps. Doing the jobs no one else wanted. For families who never saw her." Alexandra stared at the carpet. "I didn't see her either." "No," Lorraine said gently. "But maybe now you can." That evening, Alexandra drove alone again. She found Maya on the stoop of her building, one niece asleep on her lap, the other curled beside her with a book. Maya looked up as Alexandra approached, but she didn't move. She didn't smile. "I heard you met Lorraine," Maya said. "I did," Alexandra replied. "She told me everything." Maya nodded slowly, stroking her niece's hair. "I don't want to make this about me," Alexandra said, "but hearing what you went through, it humbled me. It shook me." "You looked pretty shaken when you slapped me," Maya said, her tone sharp but not cruel. Alexandra swallowed hard. "I was wrong, and I'll keep saying that until I can prove it means something." There was a long pause. "Why are you here, really?" Maya asked. Alexandra crouched down, looked her in the eye. "Because my son is not whole without you," she said. "Because I can build 1,000 programs and write 1,000 apologies. But none of it means anything if the person I hurt most isn't part of the healing." Maya said nothing. Alexandra reached into her bag and pulled out a folder. Again. But this time, she didn't open it. She handed it over. "No cameras, no contracts, just a letter, from me to you." Maya hesitated, then took it. She read it slowly. Her eyes welled, but she didn't let the tears fall. "You wrote this by hand?" "Yes. I didn't think billionaires used pens anymore." Alexandra almost smiled. "I didn't think I'd ever kneel on cracked concrete for forgiveness either." Maya looked at her for a long moment. Then she stood, careful not to wake her niece, and opened the door. "You want to come in?" Alexandra followed. Inside, the apartment hadn't changed. It was still too small. Still smelled faintly of disinfectant and overcooked rice. But tonight, it felt different. Tonight, it felt like a beginning. Maya put the girls to bed, then sat at the table with Alexandra, tea in hand. "What does this new role involve?" she asked. "Whatever you want it to," Alexandra replied. "I need someone to design and lead the infant care program for the new foundation. I need someone who knows what it means to raise a child under pressure. Someone who's lived it." You want me to run it?" "I want you to build it." Maya was silent for a while. Then softly she said, "I'll do it, but on one condition." Alexandra raised an eyebrow. "That little boy of yours? He needs me for more than your initiative. I want to be in his life, not just as a name on your payroll." Alexandra didn't hesitate. "Deal." Maya extended her hand. They shook on it. It was not the end of a scandal. It was not the end of the damage. But it was the start of something neither woman had known how to name. Trust. It was just past midnight when the crying started. Alexandra sat upright in bed, heart racing. She glanced at the baby monitor, already glowing with Noah's restlessness. The cries weren't his usual whimpers or hungry fusses. They were deep, guttural, desperate. Without hesitation, she threw on her robe and rushed down the hall. When she reached the nursery, Noah was flailing, his face red, his tiny body arching away from the bottle held by the temporary night nurse. Alexandra's stomach twisted. "He's refusing it again," the nurse said, voice tight with exhaustion. "He hasn't taken more than an ounce in the past 3 hours." Alexandra stepped in quickly, lifting Noah into her arms. He screamed louder. "I've got him," she said, brushing the nurse aside. She tried singing, rocking, whispering in his ear. Nothing worked. For 30 minutes, she walked circles around the nursery, pacing under the glow of the nightlight, murmuring gentle reassurances. But he cried like he was mourning something, or someone. Maya. The realization hit her harder than she expected. Her mind flashed to the way he nestled into Maya's chest, the way he smiled when her voice filled the room. Soft and warm like sunlight through curtains. This wasn't just about food or fatigue. This was grief, a baby's version of it. Alexandra sat in the rocking chair, tears stinging her eyes as Noah's cries finally faded into exhausted hiccups. She whispered into the silence, "I'm trying, baby. I really am." The next morning, she made the call. Maya arrived just after dawn. She didn't knock. The staff had been told she was to be welcomed without hesitation. She entered the nursery quietly, her sneakers barely making a sound on the soft carpet. Alexandra stood at the window, still in her robe, hair undone, looking like someone who hadn't slept in days. "He didn't stop crying until 3, Alexandra said without turning. And even then, it wasn't sleep, it was surrender. Maya nodded slowly. Then she moved to the crib. "Noah," she whispered gently. The baby stirred, and then miraculously he smiled. It was faint and fleeting, but it was real. Maya picked him up, and the moment he touched her skin, his body relaxed. The tension in his limbs, the worry in his face, it all melted. Alexandra turned and watched. She didn't speak. She didn't move. She just watched as the one thing she couldn't control unfolded before her eyes. Trust. Maya hummed softly, a song Alexandra didn't recognize, something soulful, likely from her childhood. Noah clung to her shirt with tiny fingers, his breathing steady. "He remembers you," Alexandra said. Maya nodded. "Babies know love when they feel it. Doesn't matter what language it comes in." They sat together in the nursery for the next hour, exchanging few words. "Eventually," Maya said, "I'll come back full-time. Under one condition." Alexandra looked up. "I want creative control over the infant care program. Full leadership. My team, my curriculum, my standards." Alexandra didn't hesitate. "Dona." "And," Maya added, "I want a say in how your foundation represents women of color. No more token faces. No more performative philanthropy." Alexandra nodded again. "Absolutely." Maya looked down at Noah, whose eyes were now fluttering shut. "You said you want change," she said softly. "This is where it starts." That week, Alexandra announced the formal launch of the Second Mothers Initiative, an outreach and support foundation designed to train and employ women of color in the field of home infant care. At the heart of the initiative, Maya Williams, Director of Development and Lead Specialist. The press release was short, direct, and notably void of any attempt to shift blame. It read, "Second Mothers was not born out of strategy. It was born out of failure mine. I failed a woman who was more than a caretaker. I failed a system that had already failed her. This initiative is my commitment to doing better, not just for her, but for the many like her, who deserve more than apologies, they deserve action." Maya's picture accompanied the article. Not a staged headshot. A candid photo, her cradling Noah, his tiny hand gripping her necklace. The response was immediate. Donations poured in. Interviews were requested, but Maya kept her public comments minimal. "I didn't do this for applause," she told one reporter. "I did it because children deserve better, and so do the women who raise them, seen or unseen." Behind the scenes, the work began. Maya built the team from the ground up: former nurses, doulas, pediatric experts, and most importantly, single mothers with lived experience. Training centers were established in low-income neighborhoods. Scholarships were created. Legal aid was offered for caregivers facing discrimination. Alexandra funded it all, but she stayed out of the spotlight. She insisted the narrative remain centered on the people doing the work, not the woman who had once failed them. Every evening, she returned home and watched as Maya held Noah, bathed him, laughed with him. Her presence, once framed by tension and class divide, now felt like a balm. One night, as they sat in the nursery, Alexandra finally asked, "Do you forgive me?" Maya didn't answer right away. She looked at Noah, who was asleep against her chest, then turned to Alexandra. "I don't think forgiveness is a finish line," she said. "I think it's a road. And some days we take steps forward, other days we stop and catch our breath. But if you're still walking it, so am I." Alexandra blinked back tears. Noah stirred, and for the first time in weeks, Alexandra felt something return to the nursery she hadn't felt in ages. Peace. The walls of the new foundation headquarters were still bare, smelling faintly of paint and hope. Nestled in the heart of South Central Los Angeles, the building stood as both a bold statement and a quiet rebellion, an institution born not from wealth, but from reckoning. Maya stood in front of the first cohort of trainees, 12 women, each with different backgrounds, but all carrying similar burdens. Some were single mothers. Some were immigrants. One had just been released from prison. All of them were here because they wanted a second chance. She cleared her throat. "Welcome to Second Mothers," she began. "This isn't just a job training program. This is a space built on the idea that nurturing is power. And that power has been overlooked, underestimated, and underpaid for too long." The women sat upright, focused. Maya walked slowly as she spoke. "We will teach you infant CPR. We will train you in pediatric nutrition. But we'll also talk about boundaries, about dignity, about how to advocate for yourselves in homes that may not always see you." She paused, looked around. "You are not here to be invisible. You are here to be indispensable." The room burst into soft applause. From the back of the room, Alexandra watched. She didn't need to lead this part. She was content being the woman in the shadows now, funding the light. After the session, Maya joined her in the hallway. "That was powerful," Alexandra said quietly. Maya smiled. "I'm still nervous every time I speak." "You didn't look it." They walked to the office. Maya had claimed bare bones for now, but with photos of her nieces taped to the filing cabinet. Alexandra hesitated before speaking. "There's something I want to ask. Personal." Maya tilted her head. "Okay. That night, when I said what I said, about your skin, your body, why didn't you fight back? Why didn't you leave this city? Sue me? Blast me online?" Maya sat down. "Because I've been fighting my whole life," she said. "And I've learned that sometimes the strongest thing a person like me can do is stay. Not to be silent, but to make space, to claim it." She folded her hands. "I didn't need revenge. I needed change. For me, for my nieces, for Noah." Alexandra nodded slowly, absorbing each word. Later that evening, Maya drove home, exhausted but content. The sun had dipped below the horizon, casting long golden rays over the neighborhood's crumbling sidewalks. She pulled into her usual spot, carried a bag of groceries upstairs, and was greeted by 2 flying hugs from her nieces. "Tia, Tia," they cried, pulling at her arms. "Guess what? I got a gold star today," the younger one beamed. Maya laughed, kissing their foreheads. "You two are the best part of my day." As they settled into homework and leftovers, Maya felt a rare peace. It was hard-earned, fragile, maybe, but real. Then her phone buzzed. It was a private number. She hesitated, answered. "Maya Williams?" a deep voice asked. "Yes, who's calling?" "This is Detective Raymond Lott, Louisiana PD. We need to speak with you regarding a past case at Westlake General. Are you available tomorrow?" Maya's heart dropped. "A past case?" "Yes, ma'am. It involves a former pediatric surgeon who's under investigation. Your name came up as a witness." Silence. I understand," she said. "I'll be there." She hung up slowly, her pulse racing. That night, sleep didn't come easy. Memories stirred, memories she had locked away. The night shift. The baby that never came back. The charts that didn't match. The moment she was told to keep quiet. Or risk everything. She had chosen silence. Until now. The next day, Alexandra sat in her office, reviewing grant proposals for expansion when Maya entered without knocking. Her face was pale, eyes haunted. "I need to tell you something," she said, "before the police do." Alexandra stood immediately. "Are you okay?" Maya nodded. "Yes. But this is something I should have said sooner." She took a deep breath. There was a surgeon at Westlake. Dr. Charles Elridge. Respected. Celebrated. But something was wrong with him. He mishandled cases. Ignored protocols. A baby died under his care. I saw the records. Reported it to my supervisor. They told me to drop it. That it would hurt the hospital's reputation. And her voice cracked. I let it go. I let it die with the paperwork. Alexandra said nothing. I was scared. Maya continued. I was young. I needed my job. My sister had just died. I didn't know what else to do. Now, she looked Alexandra in the eye. I might be asked to testify, and when that happens, everything about my past, every detail will be dragged into the light. I wanted you to hear it from me. Alexandra exhaled slowly. You did the right thing now. I didn't before. No, Alexandra said gently. But you were put in an impossible position, and you're not running from it now. That matters. Maya sat down, visibly relieved. I just didn't want you thinking I had secrets. Alexandra offered a faint smile. We all have secrets, Maya. The question is what we do with them. That evening, as Maya left the office, she found a small package on her desk. No name, just a card. For the days when courage feels distant. A friend. Inside was a tiny silver pendant in the shape of a key. She didn't know who sent it, but she wore it anyway. Because tonight, as the world shifted again beneath her feet, Maya didn't feel like a maid. She felt like a woman holding the key to a door the world never wanted her to open. And for the first time, she was ready to walk through it. The next morning at the foundation, the air felt heavier. Not from tension, exactly, but from anticipation, a shift that everyone sensed but no one could quite name. Maya arrived early, as always, her steps brisk and purposeful. Yet, beneath her polished demeanor, her thoughts churned. The phone call from the detective, her confession to Alexandra, the long-buried memory of that night at Westlake, it all weighed heavily, like bricks layered one by one on her chest. Still, she wore the silver key pendant tucked beneath her blouse, a small reminder that doors once locked were now hers to open. As she passed through the lobby, a voice called out, Maya, wait up. It was Ava, one of the trainees, mid-30s, mother of 4, and sharp as a whip. She caught up, holding a paper coffee cup and a half-smile. Got a second? Always, Maya said, stepping aside. Ava lowered her voice. You didn't hear this from me, but one of the women on your first shift team used to work admin at Westlake. She recognized your name. Maya's breath caught. She said your file went missing before the layoffs, Ava continued. Like, scrubbed clean. No warnings, no evaluations, just gone. Maya blinked. That can't be a coincidence. I didn't think so either. A silence stretched between them. Thanks for telling me, Maya said. Ava shrugged. We protect our own. Upstairs in the executive wing, Alexandra was reviewing vendor proposals for a new daycare facility. She looked up when Maya knocked and entered without waiting. You okay? Alexandra asked immediately, noting the tension in Maya's jaw. I just got word that someone from my Westlake days might be part of our team. They say my file was erased before I left. Alexandra sat forward. You think someone's trying to cover something up? I think they've been trying, Maya said. And I think that's about to end. She paused. I'm going to the precinct this afternoon. The detective wants my statement. Alexandra nodded, her voice firm. Do you want me to come with you? Maya blinked, caught off guard. I don't need a lawyer, Alexandra. I didn't say lawyer. I said me. Un moment peste. Yeah, Maya said quietly. I'd like that. At the station, the air was sterile and cold, a far cry from the warmth of the Foundation. Detective Raymond Lott was calm, composed, and surprisingly empathetic. He didn't rush, didn't push. He let Maya speak. She told them everything: how she'd raised concerns, how she'd been warned to stay silent, how the baby died under Dr. Elridge's watch, and the records never quite matched. She even remembered the date, the weather, the look on the mother's face when they told her the baby didn't make it. I believed I could lose everything if I spoke out, she admitted. And I did, just not in the way I expected. Oh. When the interview ended, Maya stepped outside into the sun, her shoulders slumping from the emotional weight. Alexandra was waiting by the car, sunglasses shielding her expression. Maya climbed in silently. They drove for a while in silence, the city passing by in quiet frames. Finally, Alexandra spoke. You know this might get uglier before it gets better, right? I know, Maya said, but I'm done running. Later that week, a letter arrived. It was anonymous, mailed directly to the Foundation's address. Inside was a single sheet of paper and a flash drive. On the paper, in printed block letters, "They've buried more than you know." The flash drive contained several PDF files, scanned documents from Westlake, patient logs, surgery schedules, discharge forms. One name kept appearing, circled again and again: Dr. Charles Elridge. One note stood out: "Do not report. C. Admin, DM." Maya's hands trembled as she printed the pages. She recognized the handwriting. Dana McCall, head nurse at the time. A woman who once smiled in her face and warned her behind closed doors. Stay out of this. You're replaceable. She marched into Alexandra's office without knocking, documents in hand. Alexandra skimmed them, eyes narrowing. This is evidence, she said. This is truth, Maya corrected. Alexandra nodded. What do you want to do with it? I want it public, Maya said. But I want it done right. Not just a news story. I want families notified. I want internal investigations. I want hearings. Alexandra stood and reached for the phone. Then we'll start with a whistleblower attorney. News of the pending investigation broke 2 days later. Maya didn't speak to reporters, but her name was mentioned in every article. Former nurse turned Foundation director. Central witness in malpractice case. Reactions were mixed. Some called her a hero. Others called her an opportunist. But she didn't care. She came home late that night, bone-weary, and found her nieces asleep on the couch. One was hugging a teddy bear, the other holding a homemade "Maya is my Shiro" poster. She smiled, tears stinging her eyes. She bent down and kissed them both on the forehead. Upstairs, she opened her closet and stared at the old nurse's uniform hanging in a garment bag. She hadn't worn it in years. She touched the fabric. I'm not that girl anymore, she whispered. But I carry her with me. Ugh. The silver key pendant glinted in the mirror. Outside, sirens sang their usual lullaby. But inside, Maya felt something rare. Not just peace, purpose. The following Monday, the Foundation's lobby was more crowded than usual. Camera crews hovered outside the glass doors, their long lenses aimed at anyone who entered or exited. Maya arrived in a navy blazer, her curls pinned back, and a calm mask over the storm brewing beneath. Inside, staff whispered in corners, their eyes darting toward her. Some smiled in solidarity. Others avoided eye contact, wary of being caught in the tidal wave of controversy that now trailed her every step. Alexandra was already waiting in Maya's office with coffee and a folder. The interview is confirmed for tonight. National, prime time. Maya exhaled. I'm not doing this for the spectacle. I know, Alexandra said. But you need to own the story before someone else twists it. Maya sat down, her fingers tightening around the coffee cup. I'm scared, she admitted. Alexandra leaned forward. Good, that means it matters. The studio was cold. Maya sat beneath bright lights, facing the veteran anchor whose name was a household staple. The woman was older, sharp-eyed, and known for never pulling punches. Yet when she greeted Maya, There was a softness, an understanding shared between women who'd had to stand their ground in rooms designed to ignore them. "Tell us what made you speak up now," the anchor began once the cameras rolled. Maya didn't flinch, because silence never protected me. It only protected the people who hurt others. She recounted the events with measured honesty, the child who died, the threats, the betrayal of an institution she once believed in. "But," she added, "I'm not here to dwell on what was broken. I'm here to build what should have existed all along." The interview aired at 8 p.m. sharp. By 8:40 p.m., social media erupted. Clips were shared, excerpts quoted, and in the midst of it all, a new hashtag appeared. Second Mother's Rise. It wasn't just about Maya anymore. Women, Black women, Latina women, immigrant caregivers began sharing their own stories. Of being underpaid, undervalued, unseen, the movement had begun. 3 days later, Maya returned to her office to find a letter on her desk. No envelope, just a torn sheet of paper with elegant cursive handwriting. "You should have kept your mouth shut. Some babies are better off dead." Her hands trembled. Her breath caught in her throat. "Maya?" It was Alexandra, stepping in, alarmed by her expression. Maya silently handed over the note. Alexandra read it, her jaw tightening. "I'm increasing your security," she said. "I don't want to live in fear," Maya replied. "You're not," Alexandra said. "You're living in truth. But truth has a cost." That afternoon, Maya filed a report with the police. They took the threat seriously, but there was little they could do unless another incident occurred. Still, the message was clear. Someone out there believed Maya had disrupted something sacred or dangerous. That weekend, Maya visited her sister's grave for the first time in months. The cemetery was quiet, save for the breeze and the distant hum of freeway traffic. She brought daisies, her sister's favorite, and knelt by the stone. "I used to think silence was strength," she whispered, "that if I just stayed low, worked hard, didn't ruffle feathers, I'd be safe, the girls would be safe. But I know now safety isn't promised, especially not to women like us." She closed her eyes. "I miss you, every day, but I'm doing something now, something real. I just hope you're proud." A breeze rustled through the trees, soft and warm. Maya took it as an answer. The next morning, a mother showed up at the foundation unannounced. Her name was Carla Harris, mid-42nd, eyes sunken with grief, carrying a small binder filled with documents. "I saw your interview," she said to Maya. "I think my daughter was one of Elridge's patients." Maya brought her into the conference room. Alexandra joined them. Carla laid the binder on the table. Inside were medical charts, test results, timelines meticulously kept. "My daughter died during a routine hernia operation," she said. "I was told it was a rare complication. But nothing added up. No investigation, no apology, just silence." Maya flipped through the records, her eyes catching a familiar name. Nurse Dana McCall, the same one who signed off on the altered records years ago. "I think they knew," Carla said quietly. "They just didn't want me to." Maya's hands clenched. "You're not alone anymore," she said. "They reached out to more families. Some responded, others didn't. But slowly, a pattern emerged, children lost under the same doctor, with the same staff covering the aftermath. The case expanded. Investigators deepened their probe. And Maya, once silenced, became the thread that pulled the entire cover-up apart. One night, as she tucked her nieces into bed, the older one, Amira, looked up at her. "Tia, is it true you're a hero?" Maya smiled faintly. "Where'd you hear that?" "Miss Thompson at school said you help babies, that you made the news." Maya pulled the blanket up to her niece's chin. "I'm just telling the truth," she said. "That's all." Amira nodded, then whispered, "Can I be like you when I grow up?" Maya's eyes stung. "You'll be better," she said. "Braver, smarter, and no one will ever make you feel small again." That night, as she sat alone on the balcony with a cup of tea, Maya looked up at the stars. The city buzzed below, unaware of the quiet revolution being led by a woman once dismissed as a nobody. But Maya knew, and now so did the world. The polished marble floors of the courthouse echoed with every determined step Maya took. Her heels clicked a steady rhythm, one part defiance, one part dread. The halls were colder than she expected, lined with portraits of old white men whose bronze plaques gleamed under the fluorescent lights. Men who never saw women like her as equals. As threats, Alexandra walked beside her, silent but present. A quiet shield, they entered the pre-hearing chamber, where a few dozen people had gathered. Lawyers in pressed suits, family members clutching folders, reporters murmuring behind their notepads. But Maya's eyes found only one face, Dana McCall. She sat at the far end of the room, her posture rigid, her lips drawn tight like a line under pressure. Time had grayed her hair, but not her coldness. When their eyes met, Dana looked away first. The judge entered, an elderly woman with silver hair and a sharp gaze. "Let's begin," she said curtly, and the room straightened. The purpose of the session was to determine whether enough evidence existed to move forward with a formal indictment against Dr. Elridge and any complicit staff. It wasn't a trial, but it was a reckoning. Maya was the second witness called. She rose slowly and walked to the stand, swore her oath. Saturday, with her back straight and her fingers clasped in her lap, the district attorney began. "Miss Williams, can you describe what you witnessed the night of the 19th of August, 7 years ago?" Maya nodded. Her voice didn't tremble. Not once. She detailed the charts, the error in the dosage, the panicked whisper among the staff, the hush orders that followed, and Dana, her supervisor, warning her to forget it all. "Did you try to report it?" the attorney asked. "I did. Twice," Maya said. "First to Nurse McCall, then to the department head. Nothing happened. A week later, I was reassigned. A month later, I was laid off. Why come forward now?" Maya glanced at the families seated behind the railing. At Carla Harris, holding a photograph of her lost child. "Because the truth waited long enough," she said. The judge didn't interrupt. The gallery didn't blink. When she stepped down, Dana was called next. Her testimony was clipped, defensive. She denied intentional wrongdoing, claimed administrative oversight, and said Maya's allegations were based on emotional projections. But Maya noticed her hands. They shook when she shuffled her papers. She was unraveling. The DA pressed harder. "Did you ever alter medical records, Miss McCall?" Dana hesitated. Then softly, barely audible, "I did what I was told." Gasps rippled through the courtroom. The judge banged her gavel. "You will answer clearly." Dana's eyes dropped. "Yes." The hearing lasted 5 more hours. By the end, the judge ruled the case would proceed to formal indictment. Multiple staff, including Dr. Elridge and Dana McCall, would face charges ranging from gross negligence to obstruction of justice. Outside, the courthouse steps swarmed with media. Maya and Alexandra exited together, hand in hand like comrades, not employer and employee. A reporter shouted, "Miss Williams, do you feel vindicated?" Maya stopped, faced the cameras. "This isn't about vindication," she said. "It's about accountability." And it's just the beginning. They didn't linger. That evening, back at the foundation, the team gathered in the lounge. Trainees, mentors, admin, all of them watching the evening news replay the day's events. When Maya walked in, the room burst into applause. She was stunned. Ava stepped forward, tears glimmering in her eyes. "You stood up for all of us today." "No," Maya said. "I stood up with all of you." The foundation felt more alive than ever, like it had finally stepped into its purpose, not just as a safe haven, but as a force. A challenge. A declaration. Still, Maya knew this was far from over. That night, after everyone had left, she lingered in the nursery room, the training space where mock cribs and baby dolls stood in soft silence. Noah was asleep at home with Alexandra, but Maya could still feel his little hand wrapped around her finger. She sat in the rocking chair and let the silence wash over her. She thought of the babies lost, the mothers silenced, the caregivers discarded, and she thought of the ones still coming. Then she reached into her purse and pulled out a small, folded note. "You are not the storm. You are the shelter." Alexandra had left it on her desk earlier that morning. Maya didn't cry. She just folded the note again, placed it in her wallet, and stood. Because tomorrow, she would show up again. Speak again. Build again. And no one, not Dr. Elridge, not Dana McCall, not 1,000 whispered threats could stop her now. It began with a single email. Maya opened it at 6:17 a.m., barely halfway through her first cup of coffee. The subject line read, Proposal. Partnership with County Infant Wellness Program. She read it twice. The sender was Dr. Eileen Rhodes, head of the county's Department of Public Health, an institution that had rarely acknowledged grassroots efforts like Second Mothers. The body of the email was short but deliberate. We've been following your work. I believe our department can benefit from your team's insight. Would you consider a collaborative proposal? Perhaps even a pilot program under county endorsement? Maya set the mug down. Her hands suddenly too warm. For a second, she thought of her old break room at Westlake. The bland walls, the silence that had smothered her voice. And now, a government office was offering a partnership? Redemption didn't usually come knocking. But today it had. She replied with a single line. Let's talk. Later that morning, she called a staff meeting. Let me be clear. She began, standing at the front of the foundation's multipurpose room. This is more than a grant. This is a doorway. If we walk through it, it changes everything. She clicked through a slideshow. She'd stayed up all night outlining the county proposal, the possible funding, the community impact. We're talking about placing second mothers, trained caregivers in hospitals, clinics, and social services across the city. We're not just responding to trauma anymore. We're preventing it. A few staff members looked stunned. Ava leaned forward, eyes shining. This could be national one day, she whispered. Maya smiled. First we do local right. Then we talk national. That afternoon, Maya met with Dr. Rhodes in a quiet downtown cafe, the kind where city officials gathered to talk big ideas over overpriced coffee. Dr. Rhodes was tall, no nonsense, with silver coils in her hair and reading glasses that slid to the edge of her nose as she reviewed the foundation's impact report. This is substantial, she said, flipping pages. You've maintained zero turnover in the past year. Your infant development curriculum is stronger than what some hospitals use. And you've trained 62 women since opening. Maya nodded. We could do more. We just need the right infrastructure. Rhodes tapped her pen. What you need is legitimacy in the eyes of policymakers. That's what we can offer. Maya leaned in. And in return? Rhodes didn't blink. We want your model, your training protocols. A signed agreement that this becomes the pilot for a statewide initiative. Maya's eyes narrowed. She'd fought too hard to hand over control to bureaucrats who didn't understand the soul of the work. I want assurances, she said. That my staff remain independent. That we make decisions about our people, our curriculum. I won't let you whitewash this. Rhodes nodded, slowly. I didn't expect you to. That's why I reached out to you. They shook hands. And in that handshake was something more than respect. It was recognition. By the end of the week, Alexandra hosted a private strategy dinner at her home, inviting Maya and a few trusted advisors. The atmosphere was warm, filled with laughter, glasses of wine, and plates of homemade lasagna. But the conversation turned serious quickly. The moment this goes public, said Clarence, their legal advisor, you'll be scrutinized more than ever. Politicians, lobbyists, maybe even the medical board. Good, Maya replied without hesitation. Let them look. There's nothing to hide. Alexandra smiled. That's my girl. Maya looked around the table at women who once had no platform, now negotiating statewide impact. At Alexandra, once her boss, now her ally. At herself, once silenced, now leading. She raised her glass. To rebuilding, not just systems, but dignity. They clinked glasses. Outside, Los Angeles shimmered in the distance, unaware that somewhere in that warm kitchen, a revolution was being mapped out over pasta and conviction. The next morning, Maya received a text from a number she didn't recognize. Meet me at the playground behind Franklin Elementary. Noon, alone. She stared at it. Strange, ominous, but something in her gut told her to go. She arrived early, the sun high, children laughing in the distance. She sat on a bench, heart racing. 5 minutes later, a woman approached. Late 40s, dressed in casual clothes, sunglasses. Maya, she asked softly. Maya stood. Yes? The woman removed her sunglasses. "My name is Angela. I used to work records at Westlake." Maya stiffened. Angela glanced around, then sat down. "I saw your interview. I kept something. Just in case." She handed Maya a sealed envelope. "It's a copy of the original incident report. Before they altered it. It was supposed to be shredded." Maya's throat tightened. She took the envelope with both hands. "Why now?" she asked. Angela looked away. "Because for years, I told myself I was just following orders. But you reminded me what courage looks like. And I needed to remember I'm still capable of it." Maya didn't cry. She just reached out and squeezed Angela's hand. "Thank you." As Angela walked away, Maya opened the envelope. Inside were 2 sheets of paper, the original nurse's log, and a file with Dr. Elridge's name scribbled in red with the words, "Pending suspension, confidential," stamped across the top. Proof. Real proof. That night, Maya scanned the documents into her secure drive and called the district attorney. The case had just gained undeniable new traction, and while she knew the road ahead would twist and turn, one thing was now certain. Second Mothers wasn't just a support system anymore. It was becoming a weapon, one forged in love and sharpened by truth. The day dawned gray, as if the sky itself were bracing for what was to come. Maya stood by the window of her modest office at the foundation, watching the overcast sky while she reviewed the latest news alerts on her phone. The county partnership announcement was scheduled for tomorrow public, live-streamed, clear and bold. The stakes were higher than ever. Her assistant knocked and entered holding a tablet. "Ma'am, you need to see this." Maya leaned forward, chest tight. On the screen, a sensational headline from a local tabloid site. "Is Second Mother's a front? Allegations emerge that Williams Foundation misused funds. Documents show discrepancies." Below, details of supposed financial irregularities, grants, expenditures, reimbursements, marketed as if she was using donations for personal gain. The piece referenced unnamed insiders and whistleblowers. Maya's stomach dropped. Her heart pounded. She'd expected pushback. But not this. A coordinated attempt to discredit everything she'd built. Everything she stood for. Before she could speak, Alexandra entered, already holding 2 mugs of coffee. She handed one to Maya without a word. Eyes dark, but steady. They sat in silence for a moment. Then Alexandra said softly, "They're trying to scare you." Maya swallowed. "They're trying to derail us. But they'll have to try harder." Across town, behind a veil of tinted windows, a PR specialist whispered to a man in a suit. "They're circling. Hit hard now, before the county press rollout." The man nodded, steepling his fingers. "Make it loud." Down the phone line, Alexandra heard it clearly but didn't flinch. She spoke. "I need a detailed rebuttal. And I want our entire financial ledger public. Full transparency. No spin." Her assistant slumped, relief evident. Maya's hands clenched. This was war. A war of information, of perception, and they were ready. Later that afternoon, at the foundation, Maya convened an emergency staff meeting. The room was packed. Trainers, mentors, admin staff, all anxious faces turned toward her. "I know today's news was a blow," she began, voice calm but firm. "I won't lie, it hurts. But let me be clear, they will not define us." She clicked through charts, donations, expenditures, audits, each entry transparent, thorough, audited. When she finished, the room was silent. Ava stood up. "They think we're weak, because we're honest. They don't know we're unstoppable." The room erupted in applause. Maya's emotion bled through. She nodded, her voice thick. "We move forward, with truth." That evening, Alexandra walked into a media editing suite with a USB drive. Cameras and crew filled the space. She addressed the lead anchor, giving them the file's full financial records, audit statements, third-party confirmations. Use it however you need. Within the hour, the network began running a counter-report. Second Mothers under scrutiny, but transparency sets them apart. Full financial audit released. Clips of Maya speaking, of foundation videos, of mothers being helped not hidden behind polished ads but real, gritty, necessary. By midnight, social media began shifting the narrative. Hashtags like #TruthOverSmear and #SupportSecondMothers emerged, donations spiked, offers of legal support poured in. Maya sat at her desk, exhausted, but alive with determination. Her phone buzzed again, this time from Detective Lott. He had news. The investigation into Dr. Elridge was expanding. Federal authorities were now involved. The new documents had opened wider scrutiny, but he warned Maya to stay vigilant. Threats would likely escalate. She nodded, silent, the weight of progress and danger settling in her bones. The next morning, Maya found Angela waiting in the lobby. She held another envelope, plain and unmarked. Inside, a note. Stop while you're ahead. Last warning. No documents, just fear. Maya held it, unblinking. Then she looked up at Alexandra standing in the doorway. Alexandra crossed to her, slipping an arm around her shoulders. We're not alone, she whispered. Maya set the note down, determination flaring. They think they can scare us into silence. Alexandra shook her head. But they didn't reckon on the fact that you built this movement from the foundational needs of truth, and truth can't be intimidated. They stood together. Outside, the foundation moved forward into its 10th day of scrutiny, but empowered, not undermined. At home that night, Maya's nieces asked her about the headlines. Is Aunt Maya okay? She scooped them into her lap. I'm better than okay, she said softly. Because you two remind me why this matters, and what fear can never steal from us is our purpose. They nodded, sleepy and trusting. As the night fell over Los Angeles, Maya sat in the dark, the city lights painting long shadows. The road ahead would be harder, the spotlight harsher, but she wasn't alone. And now neither was the change. When the summons arrived, it felt like the moment everything crystallized. A plain envelope bearing the county courthouse's seal. Maya tore it open in her office, paper fluttering. A federal grand jury had convened. She was officially called to testify. She stared at the letter, pulse pounding. Not because she feared testifying, it was what she'd always wanted, but because she knew. Once she entered that courtroom, there was no turning back. Her assistant knocked softly. Miss Williams? Do you want me to call someone? Maya shook her head. Number just. Let me breathe for a moment. She folded the letter, cradled it like a fragile relic, then placed it in the desk drawer. She inhaled deeply and refocused on her work. A pressing to-do list hovered. Preparing the next training cohort. Finalizing the county pilot proposal. Scheduling media appearances. Each task mattered, but now carried weight beyond routine. That afternoon, Alexandra stopped by with a man in a dark suit, silver hair, and compassionate eyes. Detective Lott sent me, he said, extending his hand. FBI Special Agent Carter, I'm here to coordinate your upcoming testimony. Maya shook his hand firmly. Thank you for stepping in. Just doing my job, he replied. We want to ensure your testimony is supported. You're doing brave work. Despite the formal setting, gratitude touched her heart. The systems were not always against her. That evening in the nursery, she sat quietly with Noah. He'd started reaching for her pendant, the silver key finger tugging gently. She smiled, brushing back his hair. You're my reason, she whispered. Everything I do for you and girls like you. Later, she found Alexandra in the living room, working. Do you ever think about quitting? Maya asked softly. Alexandra looked up, surprised. Not for a second. Maya nodded. Me neither. But the trial promises to get ugly. Alexandra leaned forward, placing a hand on her arm. Let them try. We have truth. And the people's voices backing us. Maya exhaled, steeling herself. The morning of the hearing arrived. Sunlight slanted through the courthouse blinds, stark and deliberate. Maya stood outside the courtroom, arms crossed, flanked by her lawyer and Agent Carter. The tension hummed. A silent buzz of cameras, staff, legal teams. Inside, she sat at the witness stand. The judge, a stern, middle-aged woman, looked on with measured impartiality. Prosecutors and defense attorneys glared from their tables. The prosecutor began. Miss Williams, you'd already testified at the preliminary hearing. Today, I want you to walk the jury through the altered records you discovered. Maya nodded and began. She described the original log, the sealed files from Angela, the discrepancies between official and internal documents. She spoke of fear, the night she received the flash drive, the sleepless nights afterward. She spoke of purpose, the drive that pushed her to fight, not retreat. Halfway through, the defense attorney rose. Miss Williams, is it not true that you are the founder of Second Mothers? That you now stand to gain financially from the pilot program? Maya looked him straight in the eye. I didn't seek profit. I sought justice. If this program returns funds or reputation to me, it will have earned them through service, not from blood money. A murmur moved through the courtroom. The defense persisted, trying to paint her as self-serving. But then the prosecutor asked about Angela's testimony, the cover-up, the accomplice's guilt. Shots of the original records were projected on screen. Typed notes, handwritten errors, stamped pending suspension across Dr. Elridge's file. They had the power of truth behind them. The jury leaned forward. After hours, the testimony concluded. Maya stepped down from the stand, her knees shaky but her head held high. Outside the courtroom, cameras snapped. Reporters shouted questions, some filtering through. She took a breath, then walked to Alexandra in the gallery. Alexandra embraced her, tears in her eyes. That was, Alexandra began, voice thick. Unbelievable. It wasn't easy, Maya replied, but it had to be done. They walked out, flanked by Agent Carter. He spoke quietly. The hearing was a success. The jury is likely to recommend indictment. Maya nodded. She allowed herself a brief moment of relief. That night, at the Foundation's office, the team gathered around a small television. Live updates streamed news anchors, discussing the day's events. Editorials called Maya's testimony courageous, transformative, a turning point in institutional accountability. The staff roared, hugging and cheering. Tears were shed. The impact rippled farther than they'd anticipated. Maya stood and raised a glass of water. To second chances, and to the truth that can't be buried. Everyone cheered. Later, driving home, Maya glanced at the pendant glinting beneath her shirt. The silver key symbol had never meant as much. She felt the weight of what lay ahead: more hearings, public scrutiny, emotional exhaustion, but also the brightness of what she stood for and what she'd built. At her doorstep, her nieces ran out to hug her. The youngest whispered, "You did it, Tia." Maya knelt to their height. "No, I did this for you. And for every child who deserves a safe start." They skipped inside, laughter trailing down the hallway. Standing there in the doorway, Maya felt whole, like broken parts of her past had been reassembled into a stronger whole. The trial was far from over, but she had crossed the threshold into something new. A life forged by love, anchored by justice, and that was just the beginning. The following morning, the Foundation's administrative wing felt different, tense yet hopeful. If yesterday had been a trial by fire, today was about forging the embers into something brighter. Sunshine filtered through large windows into the open plan space, where desks were scattered with paperwork, half-empty coffee cups, and signs of focused toil. Maya stood before her team, shoulders squared, voice steady. Yesterday's hearing cleared one obstacle, she began. But the journey isn't over. We have families counting on us. Babies counting on us. The team exchanged glances, tired, determined, inspired. It's time we solidify our roadmap, Maya continued. I want to hear what you saw, what worked, what didn't. So tell me what is and what isn't working in the Second Mothers model. Hands tentatively raised. Ava spoke first. The curriculum is strong, but we need cultural competency modules. Not just medical training, but how to talk about race, trauma, loss, in a way that's healing, not clinical. Nodding, Maya replied, agreed, we grow through nuance, not just technique. Another team member, Janelle, added, we need outreach in church basements, community centers, places where moms gather without thinking it's programming. So the idea reaches those who really need it. Maya listened, absorbing every word, turning feedback into action items. She closed the meeting with a promise. I want to walk this with you together. Because honesty builds bridges. Later that afternoon, the Foundation's boardroom held its first virtual meeting with county officials post-hearing. Cameras were set up. Local media was expected to stream portions live. Dr. Eileen Rhodes logged on. Her greeting was steely calm. Miss Williams, despite the turbulence, your Foundation's resilience is commendable. Maya answered, Thank you. We've been on shaky ground, but I believe shared purpose is our strongest foundation. They discussed timelines, pilot expansions to clinics and shelters, and hiring additional staff. Under Maya's direction, they also mapped a community advisory board with mothers who'd gone through Second Mothers programs to guide and shape decisions. Rhodes paused. Your transparency is rare. It's compelling. You're not just building infant care, you're building trust. Maya responded simply. Trust is earned by weathering storms, not avoiding them. The virtual meeting closed with handshake emojis and renewed commitment. That evening, Maya drove to pick up her nieces from their evening dance class. The girls tumbled into the car with fiery giggles, their laughter sharp relief after the day's gravity. Guess what? Amira exclaimed. I got to lead the line dance. Her younger sister hopped in her seat, eyes shining. At home after dinner, Maya tucked them into bed. The younger one whispered, Are you a brave woman? Maya paused, stroking their hair. I try to be. But being brave doesn't mean never scared. It means choosing to stand when fear is loud. Always. The girls nodded, satisfied. Back at her study, Maya closed the door, turning toward the bookshelf lined with legal binders, children's books, and framed photos, her nieces, her foundation team, Noah at 2. She picked up the silver key pendant resting on her desk. It glinted in the lamp's warm glow. A key, she thought, opened doors. It granted access. Her mother had told her once, a key is not just about locking you, decide what stays locked out and what stays safe inside. Tonight, the key felt like more than jewelry. It was a promise to protect, to unlock truth, to carry forward stories of families like hers. Her phone buzzed. A text from Alexandra. Meeting tomorrow, press debrief. We frame the narrative. You lead. Maya sent one word back. Yes. She stood, walking to the window to look out at the city's glow. A city vast and indifferent, but tonight, alive with possibility. The trial had not ended. Public scrutiny would remain. But she'd turn the trial into testimony. One backed by integrity, community, and the courage to keep talking. Her voice had helped families. Now, with every passing day, it helped rebuild a system that once tried to silence her. And in that quiet knowledge, Maya found something stronger than fear. Purpose. The first light of dawn spilled softly into the training center, a converted community hall in south-central LA, painted in warm shades of cream and sage. Rows of chairs had been arranged in a semicircle around a small stage where tiny cribs and teaching dolls were set. The air smelled faintly of fresh paint, coffee, and possibility. Maya stood before the assembled group, new recruits, advisors, and a handful of community figures who would serve on the newly formed advisory board. Her heart thrummed with a familiar mix of anxiety and hope. Today, she began, voice steady, we begin something vital. She paused, drawing in the faces a colorful mosaic of backgrounds, ages, aspirations. Second Mothers is no longer just a foundation. It's a movement, and it starts right here, with all of you. She introduced the advisory board members. Community advocates. Mothers who had gone through the program. And local leaders. Each shared a brief story what it meant to be seen, to be supported, to be trusted again. When Maya finished, a small voice piped up near the front. A young woman with 2 small children by her side raised her hand. How can I help when I don't know how to ask for help? The question hung in the room and landed gently. By showing up, Maya answered. By being heard. By being honest about what you need. She offered to connect her to a mentor the moment the meeting ended. Later that morning, Maya and Alexandra met with media and county officials at a local clinic that would be the first pilot site. It smelled of antiseptic and potential. Nurse stations were being prepared, and schedules posted. Dr. Eileen Rhodes stood beside Maya. "We want to showcase how community-trained infant care specialists can transform outcomes," Rhodes said. "From reduced hospital readmissions to stronger family resilience." Maya added. "We'll have on-site workshops for new mothers, breastfeeding support, early childhood milestones, postpartum mental health, and paid home visits by our trained caregivers." A photographer captured them shaking hands, symbolism in motion. That afternoon, Maya finally had a moment to breathe. She moved through the office quietly, watching Ava coach a trainee, reviewing lesson plans with Janelle, and seeing legal threats replaced by strategic planning and genuine progress. Her phone buzzed. A simple text: "County Council approved pilot funding. Congrats." Maya allowed herself a real, sustained smile. That evening, the foundation hosted a small celebration. A modest gathering in the hall, lone string lights overhead, pizza, heartfelt toasts. Lori, one of the advisory board members, raised her glass. "To rebirth," she said, "of collective care." Maya lifted her glass. "To all of us. And to the babies we will never stop fighting for." Laughter erupted, glasses clinked, and for a moment the room felt sacred. Later, Maya returned home, tired in a way that hurt, in a good way. She found Noah asleep, blankets ruffled on the floor, and her nieces reading quietly in the living room. She tucked them in together, brushing hair from their foreheads. "Today was huge," Maya murmured. The older niece yawned. "Tomorrow will be too, right?" Maya kissed her forehead. "Yes, and the day after that, and all the days that come after." In her own room, she unlocked a small wooden box on her desk and removed the silver key pendant. Holding it between her fingers, she thought of the doors she'd walked through and the doors she'd opened for others. She placed the key on her pillow and crawled in beside it, surrendering to sleep. Before her eyelids closed, she whispered, "We begin." And somewhere in the quiet, truth found its new beginning. The county council chamber buzzed quietly as Maya took the podium, bathed in the soft glow of afternoon sunlight streaming through high windows. The pilot program, which just weeks before felt so fragile, was now in full motion, and today marked its first public review. Dozens of local officials, reporters, and community advocates sat before her. At her side, Alexandra watched with steady resolve. Maya opened, voice confident yet warm. "Thank you all for coming. This program is not just about statistics or grants. It's about lives, mothers, babies, families who deserve dignity." She walked through the data: home visit numbers, successful breastfeeding rates, reduced hospital readmissions, all metrics carefully gathered and transparently displayed. In the back row, she spotted Carla Harris, nodding with quiet pride. A council member rose. "Miss Williams, some critics say this is simply another well-funded pilot destined for bureaucratic oblivion. How will you ensure sustainability?" Maya met the gaze head-on. "By embedding the program in real communities, and by letting those communities steer its direction. We're not just securing funding, we're building trust." Next, another staffer asked, "There are concerns that prioritizing minority-led foundations like yours creates division. How do you address that?" Maya paused, choosing each word with care. "Justice isn't division, it's balance. Our idea isn't exclusion, we aim for inclusion. And history shows that programs led by those who've lived the struggle are often more effective and empathetic." A reporter raised her hand. "Isn't this a bit personal? You've said before this work started because of your own pain. How do you move past that into public service?" Maya's expression softened. "My pain makes me accountable. And purpose, that's something shared by all of us." She glanced at her notes. But this felt beyond preparation. It was truth. The meeting ended with polite applause. As people filed out, several attendees approached, some with tentative smiles, others with nods of approval. Outside on the plaza, Maya and Alexandra stood side by side. "That was impressive," Alexandra said softly. Maya exhaled. "We held our ground without losing our humanity." That evening, they gathered the foundation team for a debrief at the training center. Supplies were packed away, and a small celebratory cake, pilot approved, sat on the table. Ava raised her voice. You showed them what scrappy, heartfelt work looks like. They can't deny it anymore. Maya looked around at the women who had become her pillars. We're writing a new story together. One where our wisdom matters. They toasted with sparkling juice, eyes shining with hope. Late that night, at home, Maya tucked in her nieces and Noah beside her. The house was quiet, sense of peace woven through the rooms. She joined Alexandra in the living room, sinking into the sofa with a tired but contented sigh. Today was another turning point, Alexandra reflected. Your integrity, your voice has changed hearts. Maya nodded, reaching for the silver key pendant laying atop the coffee table. She held it thoughtfully. This key, she said softly, was never just a symbol of opening doors. It became a reminder. We keep those doors open so others can pass through. Alexandra crossed the room and hugged her. A moment later, Maya's phone buzzed a message from Dr. Rhodes. State budget hearing on infant health next month, looking for voice of lived experience. Interested? Maya smiled through exhaustion. Looks like the door is wider than we thought. She drifted off that night to the soft hum of the city. The pilot program stood firm, critics wavering, and a foundation rooted deeper than ever. Lightning hadn't come from the sky. It had been fostered from truth, perseverance, and community, and Maya, once silenced, was now a beacon. Her voice, grounded in justice and love, would continue shaping the world beyond these walls. The auditorium was packed. Rows upon rows of folding chairs filled with women, young and old. Their children nestled in arms or strollers at their feet. The recently established Ngoy Noa Community Center buzzed with nervous energy. It was the official launch of the Second Mother's pilot program's first public section right in the heart of the neighborhoods it aimed to serve. Maya stood behind the podium, shoulders back, heart thumping not with fear, but with purpose. Alexandra flanked her on one side. On the other, Lorraine Davis and Carla Harris, two women whose stories had become inseparable from the Foundation's mission. A gentle hush fell. Maya leaned forward and spoke. Welcome, all. Today isn't about programs or plans. It's about us women who care, who nurture, who stand up when others look away. She gestured toward Carla. Carla's daughter is part of the reason we're here. And then towards Lorraine. Lorraine offered me insight, mentorship, and the courage to continue. It takes a village. And this is our village. Applause rippled through the hall. She motioned towards brochures laid on a nearby table. Training schedules, community outreach protocols, schedules of home visits, agreements with clinics. Volunteers stepped forward to help those gathering understand the logistics. One mother rose. Her voice trembled not from fear, but from relief. My son, Daniel, was premature. My family left the state after he was born. I was alone, but I kept hearing about second mothers. I came today because maybe I won't be alone anymore. Maya smiled, moved. Then you have a place here, she said, because this program isn't just ours. It belongs to every mother who needs help and every caregiver who wants to give it. After the speeches, the crowd dispersed. Volunteers assisted families in signing up, explaining workshops, connecting them to mentors. Maya walked through the mingling groups, pausing to greet new moms, to meet caregivers in training, to comfort a grandmother who held her granddaughter tightly. Alexandra came up beside her. You've turned words into actions, she whispered. Maya nodded, watching a trainee help a nervous new mother lift her baby. It feels real now. In the distance, Carla introduced families to the waiting caregivers. Lorraine organized a small group of elderly volunteers to teach lullabies and traditional knowledge. The center was alive, pulsing with shared purpose. That afternoon, Maya conducted a short Q&A with a local teacher who wanted second mother's lessons in her school's parent classes. A reporter filmed, capturing candid moments of connection, not scripted, but authentic. In the evening, the press coverage began rolling in. Community finally centered. Second mothers launches in real homes. Local mothers step up. not saving childhoods, sustaining them. From trauma to trust, how one foundation rewrote the script. Social media lit up with photos of volunteers hugging infants, caregivers singing midnight lullabies, and mothers finding steady hands at the darkest moments. Under those images, whispers of hope echoed, words like, "Finally, thank you," and "This changes everything." Later that night, back at home, Maya sat in her study writing thank you notes, quick, heartfelt words to everyone who made the day possible. Her nieces knocked and tumbled in, eager for bedtime stories. "Maya, can we have the lullaby you sang today?" the older one asked. Maya smiled, nodded. She sang softly, their eyes drooping until they drifted to sleep. Treasure each note. When they were asleep, she lit a candle and pulled out the silver key. It reflected the flame's flicker, illuminating a tapestry of memories. That first slap, the apology in a cramped apartment, the trial, and today's launch. She whispered into the glow, "You helped open this." The next morning, Molly, a volunteer whose baby was part of the pilot, called Maya. Her voice was steady, but gripped with emotion. "My daughter took her first full feed today with a second mother's nurse." She smiled quietly afterward, like she remembered something safe. Maya closed her eyes. "Thank you for telling me, Molly. That's why we exist." She closed her phone and returned to her desk. The wall behind her was now peppered with photos. Babies smiling, mothers hugging, caregivers in scrubs, none staged. All real. Alexandra passed by, checking in. "How are you?" Maya paused, absorbing the moment. "Overwhelmed." Alexandra reached out, squeezing her shoulder. "Good, overwhelmed?" Maya nodded. "Yes. Because today, voices were heard. And now, we answer them." That evening, as she tucked her own children into bed, she thought of the thousands more yet to come. Of villages being built, lives being supported, justice being woven through small daily acts of care. In the quiet of the house, she allowed herself one moment, no boards, no hearings, no critics, just the soft hum of home. She whispered, "We are here. We are heard." Nah. And the world felt more alive, more just, and infinitely more tender for it. The morning light filtered through the curtains of the nursery, painting soft stripes across the crib where Noah stirred. Today was his second birthday, a milestone both ordinary and miraculous. The house felt electric with warmth and anticipation. Balloons bobbed in the hallway. A small cake frosted with pale blue icing waited on the kitchen counter. And somewhere, laughter rippled already. Alexandra entered with a quiet smile, carrying Noah in her arms. He yawned, blinked, then reached for her hair, clothed in gentle recognition. Tears caught her eyes. "Well, birthday boy," she whispered. "Happy second." Alexandra handed him off to Maya, already kneeling on the floor, her curls caught up in a clip, her eyes shining. Noah's face lit up when he saw her, as though time's distance melted immediately. He waved his arms. She caught him in her lap. He cooed and giggled. Maya held him close, voice low and tender. "Happy birthday, little one. You bring us all to life." The day would be filled with family, Alexandra's friends, the Foundation's leadership team, and those who had become extended family over the past months. The community center had offered space for a small gathering. There'd be warm food, an improvised puppet show, and plenty of moments to collect. As afternoon arrived, the center buzzed with activity. The tables were decked in soft blues and greens. A homemade banner read, "Happy second birthday, Noah." Trainees from second mothers bustled around, greeting guests, guiding parents to seating, offering plates of food. Among them, Carla held a platter of fruit and smiled as a child danced sideways, sugar high and proud. Maya circulated, accepting congratulations, fielding questions about future expansions, and moving through hugs from the team, a tapestry of shared progress woven out of identity, passion, and resilience. When night fell, the crowd gathered in a circle around the cake. Balloons drifted overhead, candles flickered. Alexandra helped Maya unwrap Noah's presents, a handmade quilt embroidered with his name, a book of lullabies, a wooden toy train. As she unwrapped the last gift, Noah's eyes widened. He tapped the quilt gently, then closed his eyes and wrapped his chubby fingers around its edge. In that simple gesture lay trust and belonging. They sang, "Happy birthday to you." A circle of voices rose soft, melodic, multi-generational. Maya lifted Noah to blow out the candles. 2 tiny puffs of breath sent the flames wavering before extinguishing them. He clapped, eyes wide with triumph. Applause echoed. Someone called out, "You did it, buddy." Tears appeared in Alexandra's eyes. Maya's hand quietly found hers. On that improvised stage of home, healing, and community, they stood as family, not by blood but by love. Later that night, the house quiet and still, the birthday decorations softly faded into shadows. Maya tucked her nieces into bed and gave Noah his evening feed. He drank dreamily, finger curled around her necklace, the silver key catching the lamp's glow. When Noah slept, Maya carried him to his crib, placing him gently. She paused to brush his hair, then turned toward the door. At the threshold stood Alexandra, arms folded, eyes warm. "He loves you," she said simply. Maya nodded, voice soft. "He teaches me every day what love looks like." They parted with a gentle look, no words necessary. In the quiet of the hallway, Maya found herself staring at the silver key on her dresser. Her reflection, weary yet fierce, looked back. The key remained an emblem not just of doors opened, but of the family built in broken spaces reclaimed. She returned to the living room, settling into the worn sofa. The day's images drifted through her mind. Noah's giggle, the faces in the community center, the trainees' pride, the foundation's heartbeat pulsing into life. Her phone buzzed an email from Dr. Rhodes. "State Funding Committee tentatively approves expansion next quarter. You've changed policy. Congratulations." Maya exhaled, her chest expanding with love, relief, and resolve. That night, as she finally drifted to sleep, her nieces curled around her slumbering figure, peaceful, trusting, small, and overhead, the mobile with handcrafted felt stars swayed gently. Maya whispered into the dark, "This is for you, and all that are to come." It was more than a birthday. It was a testament. New beginnings rooted in compassion, justice, and the profound truth that one soft, determined voice can rewrite generations. In the hush, she found hope blooming bright, unwavering, and irrevocably alive. The morning air in south-central Los Angeles held a crispness that felt like possibility. At the newly opened Ngoy Noah Community Center, light streamed through tall windows onto rows of tiny cribs and playmats. Quiet murmurs of volunteers setting up for the day rose through the halls, coffee brewing, brochures waiting at welcome desks, the faint hum of a music box playing lullabies in the distance. Maya walked through the space alone for a moment, absorbing the atmosphere. This had become a home for mothers seeking support, for caregivers taking steps into leadership, for children needing safety and love. The walls echoed with laughter and resilience. She paused before a mural painted by community artists, a scene of intertwined hands, babies, mothers, caregivers. The phrase beneath read, "Built from trust." She traced a fingertip across the words, feeling the breath of everyone who had poured their pain into progress. A knock on the glass door stirred her attention. She turned to see Alexandra approaching with Noah in her arms. The baby looked out curiously, wide-eyed. "Mind if we join you?" Alexandra asked softly. Maya smiled. "I'd love that." They settled on a patch of sunlight near the mural. Noah squirmed out of Alexandra's hold and toddled between their feet, reaching for the painted hands. "It's beautiful," Alexandra said, crouching beside Maya. "It's home," Maya agreed. "Not a building, but what happens in it." They watched as volunteers arrived, some greeted with warm hugs, others checked in quietly, their expressions tentative, hopeful. Later that afternoon, Maya led a small group of second mothers trainees in the counseling room. A new mother sat with her baby sleeping in a sling against her chest. She looked weary but determined. Maya offered gentle guidance on swaddling, soothing, and recognizing hunger cues. The trainee shadowing her young, nervous, full of empathy watched every gesture. When Maya finished, the trainee practiced the techniques on her doll, soft and deliberate. Maya leaned in. "You don't just teach technique," she whispered. "You teach trust, one heartbeat at a time." The trainee nodded, eyes shining. That evening, at home, the house felt quieter than usual. Maya and Alexandra traded stories of the day, challenges overcome, families comforted, babies soothed. Their conversation settled into contented silence, sitting together on the porch with the glow of streetlights outside. Maya's thoughts drifted to the roots of all this: the slap that launched a reckoning, the apology in a cramped apartment, the trial, the pilot, this home. She unbuttoned her blouse and touched the silver key pendant resting against her chest. The key had opened many doors, literal and metaphorical. But the most meaningful door it had opened was hers. Into a home not built by walls, but by courage, trust, and collective care. Alexandra noticed her touch. "That key, it saved more than doors," she said softly. "It saved us." Maya smiled. "We saved each other." They sat, letting the evening deepen around them. Laughter drifted from the niece's room, and distant sirens murmured a lullaby of the city that had once felt indifferent, now pulsed with quiet revolution. The next day dawned early. Staff gathered in the lobby before sunrise, coordinating home visits, updating outreach plans, arranging transportation for caregivers and families. Maya stepped in, observations quiet but purposeful. She met with the nurse trainers, reviewing curriculum enhancements, mental health check-ins, racial trauma awareness, community resource networks. Each addition felt like a brick in a sanctuary still under construction. Around midday, she returned to her office to find a handwritten letter on her desk, no envelope, only these words: "Grateful to have a place again." Tears pricked her eyes. It was signed, "A mother we helped." She pressed the paper to her chest. This was why they had built a home. That evening, as she tucked her nieces into bed, one whispered sleepily, "One day, can you bring me there?" "The center?" Maya smiled. "Yes, sweetheart. One day you'll learn to care like I do." The next morning, Noah stood by the front window, looking out as Maya prepared for the day. He pointed. That was the moment she realized. Home isn't just where you live. It's where your heart learns to open. It's where trust blossoms. It's where small hands can lead us forward. And here behind everything, the foundation of something true had finally become home. In that quiet revelation, Maya felt whole. And for the first time in her life, she wasn't just earning belonging. She was living it. The morning sun streamed through the courtyard windows of the Ngoy Noah Community Center, casting a soft golden glow across the polished floors and cribs lined in neat rows. The scent of fresh flowers, a gift from neighbors to celebrate expansion, hung lightly in the air. Today was not about data or donors. Today was about legacy. Maya stood at the entrance, watching families arrive with baskets of food, handmade cards, and hopeful hearts. Some mothers brought their babies, others carried toddlers who scrambled off to join the children's reading corner. Volunteers greeted them with warmth and familiarity. This was home. She took a steadying breath and turned to Alexandra, who stood beside her with Noah perched in her arms. The boy's wide eyes followed every moving shape in wonder. Alexandra caught Maya's gaze and nodded. In that look, a quiet understanding passed. The foundation had grown, and more importantly, it had lasted. Inside, the space was alive. A circle of trainees had gathered around a mosaic mural painted by local children, a tree with deep roots, its branches held up by figures representing caregivers, mothers, elders. Our roots, our reach, read the banner hung beneath. Maya led a short opening address, voice calm but resonant. Today, we mark not an end, but a promise continued. This center stands because of those who refuse to stay silent. Because women like Maya, like each of you, brought their truth to the light. You made it a place of trust, healing, and love. Applause rose. Faces glowed with pride and belonging. Lorraine Davis, once mentor, now an official board member, stepped forward. This legacy isn't built from buildings or grants. It's built from the courage of those who dared to believe in something brighter. For us, this is just the beginning. Nearby, Maya's nieces watched from the doorway, eyes bright with young wonder. After the ceremony, families lingered, sharing voices and stories. One mother cradled a baby in a familiar sling. She told Maya she had been homeless when she found second mothers. Now, her child's giggle echoed in the hall. Another caregiver, a trainee named Rosa, approached with tears. "You gave me purpose, a place I belong. I'm going to train other women, just like you taught me." The weight of that simple statement, "I belong," settled in Maya's chest, sweet and profound. Outside, the foundation's staff gathered in the courtyard under dappled sunlight. Alexandra raised her voice above the chatter. "We've come a long way," she said, "but let's remember. We're not here for our story. We're here for every mother, every child, every caregiver who has ever been told they don't matter." Maya nodded, heartful. They cut a chain of ribbon strung between two pillars, an opening ritual for a new wing dedicated to postpartum mental health and parent support. A small gesture, but one heavy with meaning. Everyone cheered. Later, Maya found a lonely moment in the old nursery, where Noah made his first smiles. She sat in the rocking chair, breathing in the quiet. Her gaze fell on the silver key pendant lying on the windowsill. She lifted it, fingers tracing its cool curves. The key had opened doors and opened hearts, shifted systems, built homes. A letter from Dr. Rhodes lay beside it, a simple, handwritten note. "Your leadership saved more than lives. You restored faith." Tears gathered as Maya tucked the key around her neck again. The legacy wasn't mine or yours. It was ours. That evening, at home, Maya tucked her nieces into bed. They whispered excitedly about the center's new wing, the families they met, and the happiness they saw in so many faces. "You changed so much, Tia," the older one said. Maya kissed her forehead. "We changed together." Upstairs, she held Noah close. His breathing steadied, tiny fingers wrapped around her necklace. She whispered, "You are part of something bigger." The promise of tomorrow lay in his sleep. After the house fell quiet, Maya stood at the window overlooking the lit windows of the center, a beacon in the dusk. Home, she realized again, wasn't just where the heart was. It was where the heart made its home, and as she gazed at the affirmed corridors, laughter echoing faintly beyond brick, she knew the legacy had begun. This story reminds us that true justice is often quiet, built not in courtrooms but in nurseries, kitchens, and community centers. It shows how a single act of kindness or cruelty can ripple through lives, and how redemption comes not from grand gestures, but from choosing humility, listening deeply, and standing beside those long overlooked. We learn that family is not always bound by blood, but by love, loyalty, and the willingness to show up. And perhaps most powerfully, we see that the voices of those once silenced can become the foundation of something lasting if given the space to speak, to heal, and to lead. In a world often rushing past the invisible, this story teaches us to stop, to see, and to honor the quiet strength of those who mother not just children, but entire communities.